Hi guys, in this video I'm going to talk to you about how the Bureau of Immigration came out and now has suspended their new program for guidelines for Filipino travelers. Stick around. Hi guys, so about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, the Philippines Bureau of Immigration came up with these new guidelines. First, they came out with an article saying, hey, if you want to travel out of the Philippines for your protection, we're going to need all these additional documents. We're going to need notarized copies, an affidavit of financial support from your family member if they are funding and paying for the trip. They would need all these additional documents if you're going to travel out. And there's kind of a bit of an uproar on it. And then they came out and apologized and said, no, this shouldn't affect people who have already traveled out and there's no suspicions. It'll only affect first-time travelers. Well, there's still a lot of people saying, listen, this is our right to travel as Philippine citizens. We should be able to travel out of the country without being harassed. Now, of course, there is trafficking problems here in the Philippines, so they do have to employ a certain amount of questions and security for their Filipino citizens, but sometimes they go a bit overboard, right? I mean, there's been incidents where they've asked a lady for a high school yearbook, and I think it was like 8 years ago or something that since she had graduated, and she had already traveled previously out of the country many times. So sometimes, you never know, depending on the immigration officer you get, they can go overboard. And this can be a problem for a lot of foreigners. They come here and they get a Filipino girlfriend or fiancé, wife, what have you. And it's always kind of a nervous, scary thing trying to leave the country for the very first time because you just don't know what will happen. Are you going to get somebody who is having a bad day and holds you up to the point where you miss your flight, or they just say, we're offboarding you. You don't have sufficient documentation and your questions don't exactly align with our guidelines, so we're not going to let you board. And so you can get offboarded. And basically you just lose your money for the flight and everything. So I know for Filipinos, first time is sometimes nerve-wracking. And Maya and I, when we went out to Thailand the very first time, our first trip together, she was held up for about 45 minutes. Now, she had all her documentation and they were questioning her, but it's kind of a pain, and you just don't know what could happen. So I was waiting on the other end, and of course she got through, and then off to Thailand we went. And then the second time to Vietnam, we had no issues whatsoever. We went through the same line together. And the only thing they asked her is, who are you traveling with? She pointed over there, my fiance, and he said, have a nice trip. That was it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the new article that they just came out with saying they are suspending the whole thing. Here's the article that just came out just about 6 hours ago or so, I think late last night. Government suspends new guidelines for outbound Filipino travelers. Authorities said on Saturday that they formally suspended the implementation of revised guidelines for outbound Filipino travelers. They held a meeting to address the concerns, and they said they were revisiting its guidance after it drew flack. Well, yeah, I mean, it's already hard for them to travel out of the country anyway, and then they wanted all these additional documents like notarized copies of financial support, and I mean, people, they don't want to go through all that. I mean, I understand the questioning and stuff and protecting their citizens from from trafficking, but there has to be a line drawn where it becomes too much, where it's no longer an issue of protecting their citizen, and maybe it starts to get to the point of just being harassment. So they went ahead and they suspended it. They stated that they have to strike a balance between safeguarding the individual's right to travel and ensuring national security. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with, but I know there have been incidents, and right here it even says there's been a series of incidents where Filipino tourists ended up working for crypto scam hubs in Myanmar in Cambodia, and they needed to be rescued. And of course, that takes money from the Filipino government. So I think that is why they give you such a hard time. You know, it just takes a few people to do things like this to get caught up in that, and all of a sudden they make it hard on everybody else. So I do understand that they have to do that. But the guidelines required outbound travelers to prove they are financially capable of traveling outside the country and submit documents in relation to their travel. They had also requested that you submit a notarized affidavit of support in the case of travel sponsored by a relative other than spouse, parents, or children, or entity based outside the country. Regulators slammed the guidelines, saying these violate Filipino constitutional rights to travel. That's what we're looking at. We'll talk a little bit more about it here. So the question is, what can a Filipino, or what can you as a foreigner, if you have a girlfriend or a fiance, what have you, want to travel out of the country? You guys want to travel out of the country, maybe it's the very first trip. What can you guys do to make travel that much easier? Well, for her, you want to make sure the hotel is also in her name. When Maya and I went to like Vietnam and Thailand, I made sure I had her name added on the hotel reservation as well. Of course, airline tickets, you need a ticket there and back. Of course, that's going to have her name on it. If she doesn't have any money, then you need to deposit some money into her bank account, or go down to an attorney and say, hey, I'm financially supporting her. Do a quick affidavit, notarized affidavit of that you're supporting her for the entire trip. And they may even have you sign a document if this is your first time out together. So that is something you could do. You want to show pictures, have that all prepared going as far back until you guys have met, correspondences. And if the Filipina is working, then she needs to be prepared to show her income, her bank account, like a recent, like that morning that you guys are going to travel, download her bank statement or something like that, showing that there's money going in. If this is something you want to prepare ahead of time, maybe you as a boyfriend or something can be depositing money into her account on a monthly basis to help. Or again, you may have to be financially, go down to the attorney's office and do a preemptive strike and get that affidavit of support notarized from the attorney. Other than that, just have all your ducks in a row. Just be prepared. Don't go there blindly and think, oh, you know, I don't have, we forgot this. We didn't have our photos. Our photos are somewhere else. Or we didn't have the bank statement, or we didn't have this. No, you need to have all that stuff prepared. Make it easy when you go to immigration. Have it all there, and just be honest. Answer honestly, and travel in the same line together. I discovered that initially when Maya and I went to Thailand, well, there's two signs as you go through immigration and you go through the international terminal. To the right, it says foreign passport holders, and off I went that direction, and then it said Filipino passport holders, and Maya went that direction. Well, the second time when we went to Vietnam, we both went into the same line that said foreign passport holders. We both went together, and they could visibly see we were traveling together. And again, all they said for the Vietnam trip is they said, who are you traveling with? Maya pointed at me, said my fiance, and they said, have a good time. And that was it. So probably a combination of different things that enabled her to go through safely the second time. More than likely that they saw that she's already traveled and come back, and this time, you know, it wasn't an issue whatsoever. So questions, comments, experiences that you may have. What do you think about them suspending this? What do you think they should do to protect their people, but also at the same time give them the freedom to be able to travel? Like anybody from any other country should have the freedom to be able to travel. If they're going to issue you a passport, they're essentially saying, here's the passport. Now, you know, you're able to travel outside of the country. So anyway, thoughts and opinions, let me know, guys. If you are moving or traveling out to the Philippines, don't forget to check out my webpage, geointhephilippines.com. Sign up for the free newsletter, and I put out a lot of information on that monthly. and check out my travel essentials, all the things that I personally use and highly recommend for living or traveling out to the Philippines. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time.